You bumped into a chair and you said sorry. To the chair, someone stepped on your foot in a queue, and before your brain caught up, the word was already out of your mouth. Sorry. Like your foot had personally inconvenienced them. Someone gave you bad news and you apologized for how you reacted to it. If you're watching this and something in your chest just tightened a little, stay with me. Because the thing you've been calling a bad habit or being too soft or just how I am, it isn't any of those. It's one of the most precise pieces of survival programming a human nervous system can build. And almost nobody ever explains it to the people running it. By the end of this, you're going to know exactly where it came from, what it's actually doing for you, and this is the part that matters, why it stopped working. Let's start with what everyone gets wrong about you. When people watch you apologize for things that aren't yours, they file it under low self-esteem. They think you don't value yourself. They tell you to stop saying sorry so much, as if the word were a habit you could just decide to drop, like biting your nails. But that's not what's happening inside you, is it? Because it isn't a decision. There's no moment where you consider your options and choose the apology. The word is already gone by the time you notice it. It arrives ahead of your thinking, which is the single clearest sign that it isn't coming from your thinking at all. There's a therapist named Pete Walker who spent his career working with people carrying long-term relational trauma. And he argued that alongside fight, flight, and freeze, there's a fourth response the body learns: appeasement. He called it the fawn response. Faced with a threat you can't fight and can't escape, the nervous system tries a third route. It tries to become non-threatening. It offers something. It lowers itself. And the fastest, cheapest, most available thing a human being can offer another human being in under a second with no preparation is an apology. You're not apologizing because you think you're wrong. You're apologizing because some older part of you decided that being wrong is safer than being a problem. And that part of you is old, much older than you think. No child is born like this. Watch a 2-year-old knock over a glass of juice. There's no apology. There's curiosity, or there's crying, or there's nothing at all. Because the idea that a spilled glass makes them bad hasn't occurred to them yet. It has to be taught. So somewhere it got taught. Maybe you grew up in a house where the weather changed without warning, and you learned to read a room from the doorway, the volume of a footstep, the exact tone of a sigh. And you learned that if you got there first, if you apologized before the storm landed, sometimes it didn't land. Maybe you had a parent whose moods were treated as facts about the world, and everyone's job was to keep them level. And you were good at your job. Maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. Maybe you were just the easy one, the one who didn't need anything. And you noticed, quietly, that being easy was what got you kept close. There's a psychoanalyst named Karen Horney who describes something she called moving toward people, a whole strategy of relating built on making yourself agreeable, small, useful, so that other people's approval becomes the thing keeping you safe. She wasn't describing a personality. She was describing a solution, something a person built because it was the best available option at the time. Here's the part that's hard to sit with. For a child, self-blame is not the worst outcome. It's the better one, because if it's your fault, then it's controllable. You can be better, be quieter, be less. And a child will choose, this is my fault, over the people responsible for me are unpredictable, and I can do nothing about it almost every single time. You didn't develop low self-esteem. You made a trade. You gave up being right in exchange for the world making sense. Now, here's the part nobody tells you, and it will probably reframe how you see yourself. To apologize before a conflict even begins, you have to have already detected it. That means that somewhere in the half second before you spoke, you clocked the shift in someone's face, the change in their breathing, the 3-degree drop in the temperature of their voice. Information most people in that room did not receive at all. Your apology is not the first thing that happened. It's the last thing, the visible end of a chain of extremely fast, extremely accurate social processing that nobody else in the conversation was even running. People who develop this in childhood tend to become adults with unusually high sensitivity to other people's internal states. You know when someone's upset before they do. You can tell the difference between fine and fine. You walk into a room and know immediately whether something happened before you arrived. That's not anxiety, that's a skill. It cost you something to build, and you built it well. The problem isn't the radar. The radar is excellent. The problem is what's wired to the other end of it. Because here's what it's costing you now, in a life that isn't the one you built it for. Every unearned apology is a small transfer of ownership. You take a piece of a situation that isn't yours and you put your name on it. Once, twice, 40 times a day. And the people around you, most of them not malicious, just human, start to file things accordingly. If someone keeps volunteering to be the reason, Eventually, people stop looking for another one. And there's a second cost, quieter and worse. There's a fairly consistent finding in social psychology that apologies work. They genuinely reduce hostility, they de escalate, they lower the temperature, which means every time you use one, it works. It gets rewarded. The behavior is reinforced by the exact thing that makes it harmful. It keeps succeeding at preventing a conflict that was never going to happen. You're paying a real price to solve an imaginary problem, and you never find out it was imaginary because you never let it play out. And then there's the last cost, which is the one that actually hurts. When you apologize for everything, you lose the ability to apologize for something. The word gets spent. So on the day you genuinely get it wrong and you go to someone and you say, I'm sorry, it arrives worn out. It doesn't carry what it should carry because it's been carrying everything else. So what do you actually need? Because it isn't what you get told. People tell you, stop apologizing. And that instruction is useless because it treats the word as a thing. The word isn't the thing. The word is what comes out when your nervous system decides a room isn't safe. You can't argue with that decision after the fact. It's already made. What you need isn't to say sorry less. What you need is to find out what happens if you don't. Not in a big way, not a confrontation, just once. A small, low-stakes moment where the apology is loading up and you let the silence sit there instead. Someone bumps into you, someone's in a mood that has nothing to do with you, and you say nothing, and you stay in the room, and you find out what actually happens. Almost always what happens is nothing. Nobody leaves, nobody turns on you. The thing you've been preventing your entire life turns out not to have been there. Your body needs that evidence. It won't accept an argument, but it will accept evidence. And it needs it repeatedly in small amounts over a long time because it took years of evidence to build this and it's going to take some to unbuild it. There's a version of this that swaps the word out instead of removing it. Sorry, I'm late becomes thank you for waiting. Same social function, no transfer of ownership. Some people find that easier to start with because it gives the reflex somewhere to go. Here's what I want you to take from this. You are not weak. You are not a pushover. You are not someone with a self-respect problem. You are someone who, at an age when you had no other options, worked out how to keep a difficult environment survivable. And the method you found was to absorb the blame before it landed on anyone else. That is not the behavior of someone with nothing inside them. That's the behavior of someone who was carrying more than they were built to carry and found a way to keep going anyway. It worked. That's the thing nobody says. It worked. It got you here. It's just that you're not there anymore. The room you learned it in is gone, and most of the people you're apologizing to now were never in it. You've been running excellent software for a machine that no longer exists. You don't owe that version of yourself an apology either. He was doing his best. He was, in fact, doing extremely well. You just get to stop paying for the room you already left. If this felt like someone finally explained something you've been doing your whole life without knowing why, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.